my references are and what my credibility is. If you don't have that innate sense of passion and the creating of possibilities and that hope, then I suggest to you that it's maybe something missing. Let me get a chime check, 1:45. So let me move on to one of my favorite subjects. And that is, one quick story. There's, just on the Jerome McGinley thread, there's a gentleman by the name of Mark Starowitz at the CBC. He's got many, many titles, and he's the executive director of documentaries and things like that. And there's an interesting story about him. He's an immigrant from Argentina. And he came over, I think in the 60s. Nobody talked to him for the first week at school. He just sat in the playground. He's very, genius type of kid. Nobody talked to him, trying to fit into a new society. He went home after a week, and his mom didn't know what to do. She gave him a bunch of hockey cards to take to school. He went to school and had the hockey cards. He had something to talk about. He genuinely got interested in it, kind of sat into the culture, fit in a little bit, and that's what kind of gave him his start. There's a lot of New Canadians, research that the CBC has done, and they suggest that a lot of New Canadians watch Hockey Night in Canada to get a sense of Canadian culture. So, speaking of which, anybody heard of Don Cherry? Few people? I'm going to show you a little bit. What do you get a sense of when you're probably thinking I'm on a death wish talking about Don Cherry in an immigrant forum, but what do you think of when you hear Don Cherry? Just yell it out. Rock'em Sock'em. That's a video that he's got. Don Cherry, people think of, geez, he's a redneck. He's a racist, he's a redneck, he's a bigot. He talks about the left-wing pinkos, he's political, he does Rob Ford. Maybe I shouldn't say all this, but I am. So we don't relate to him. So I was Don Cherry's boss, if you can believe that. For those of you who don't know Don Cherry, I'll show you a little excerpt about who he is, okay? And then when you're watching him on Saturdays, you can do it. Roll it, Ken. Okay, time-wise.
Hockey player in the world today, Doug Belmore, and don't you forget it, from Kingston, Ontario. I love this guy.
Here we go, everybody's crazy with that. Shark Crest Man. That's SJ Sharkey, of course, the mascot. They had a poll about the best logo in hockey. That's a chicken chicken. Who are you picking?
I'm not picking up the best team win. Why keep score?
And the second period, I think, had Bruce following his folks. I have no idea what he's talking about, but you find me there. I have no idea.
Maybe close. Let's go tonight. Wild, get ready, eh? All ready. Wild's ready for the brownie. Right now, Wild's ready. It's going to be good. Way to go, Kurt. I like it. All right.
This is better than Hollywood. It's about winner take all. Let's get it going. Get us tough. All right. That's the first time you've ever given a little tongue on television. Look at this. Look, if you get hit and show with that, you're dead. You're done. Look at this. This is the elbow pad they wear now. Plastic. You get hit in the head. Ouch. So I just got to prove a point with somebody. I was walking along the street and I run into Dave Lowry. I said, hey, now, Dave, these guys are going to be out. They're going to be ready. They're desperate. They're going to be better tonight. And he said, yeah, and so are we. Let's get it on. All right. Hey, outside of place.
Keep quiet. Go ahead. Okay, I don't have much time here. I know you're trying to win a Gemini. Right. So keep quiet.
One redeeming thing about fighting is it was honorable.
Honorable.
Two men decided to go to the Setting Adults team.
Setting adults? That's right.
Great series coming up. You know what I predicted?
So that's Don Cherry. Crazy man. just ridiculous. And talk about being unreasonable. But let me tell you, this is a little excerpt from Grapes' book. They call him Grapes. You see all the flamboyantness of Don, but I'll tell you what Don was like when he started, okay? I remember my mom calling, "Donald, Donald," at 5 a.m. on winter mornings. Very quietly, not to wake up the rest of the family, my equipment bag would be by the door, my breakfast ready, cornflakes, toast, glass of milk. I would head out in the dark with my equipment bag over my shoulder, and as I left, she always said, "Be careful." Rideau Public School was my school, about 4 blocks from home, and it had a beautiful outdoor rink. We would start playing shinny hockey at 8 in the morning, go home for lunch, then back at 2 p.m. to play till dark. We'd come home for dinner, feet numb and feeling frozen. Mom would rub them till they got warm again, and I'd be out to play road hockey until 8 o'clock at night, and then in for a hot bath, into my pajamas, with a cup of cocoa, gather around the radio, and listen to Hockey Night in Canada. Back then, Hockey Night in Canada was on the radio till 9 o'clock only, and then we started the TV after 9 o'clock. To bed we went with visions of the NHL dancing in our heads. I get told a lot that newcomers to Canada cannot relate to this guy. He talks about dreams. He talks about 5 in the morning. He talks about hard work, respect, loyalty. I'm not here to defend Don. I'm just telling you, I get to a point, at some point I do. But what I'm telling you about Don is that he's passionate. You can tell he's very passionate about it. That's something that we all strive to be. He's a blue-collar guy. He's very humble, maybe not on television, but you got to get to know him a little bit for that. He's gritty. He's hardworking. His favorite player, one of his favorite players, is Jarome Iginla, the black captain from Calgary. You see how this melting pot is a little bit ridiculous, and the barriers that sometimes we put up in our heads about people, they're not really there. My point of that is what I got taught a lot about is acceptance. I came in wanting a lot of acceptance in this field of television, and one thing that I was open to was acceptance on both sides. I had to accept the way Canadians were to me. I had to accept that this culture of hockey is ridiculously crazy, accept that people's attitudes were a little bit different, because acceptance can't be a one-way street. If I accept Don Cherry, if I accept those ideals and the Canadian ideals, there will be that acceptance coming back towards me. It can't be a one-way thing. And acceptance of the Canadian culture is a big deal. I know that we talk a lot, and you've been told a lot over the years at this conference, is try and get to know Canadian culture, try and get to understand it a little bit more. And that is huge. Hockey is just one element of it. I talk a lot about sports because that's where a lot of my focus is, but a lot of my passion is people. I love listening to different people and different ideas and things like that. It drives you, it motivates you, it enriches me. And what I find is that some people, whether it's new Canadians and Canadians alike, our acceptance is lacking for each other. And it's got to start somewhere. I get a lot of that theories from the Aga Khan, which I'll let you read a little bit of that. If you've heard of the Aga Khan, he talks a lot about acceptance and diversity and pluralism. So it's funny because this morning I was thinking, a story of my dad came up when we had that variety store in 1977 or something like that. It was Christmas Day, and I was just a kid, and he opens the store, and he has a suit on, and he has a tie. And I said, "Pops, why are you wearing a tie?" And he said, "It's Christmas." I said, "We don't celebrate Christmas." He goes, "But the people around you do. You should have some respect for the people around you. If they do, then why wouldn't you show respect for that?" I just remember that this morning. I'd totally forgotten about that story until I started thinking about it. I thought, that's cool. It's a neat thing that he was about that. I always get nervous around Remembrance Day, around November 11th, when I know that, in the news and the TV media stuff and everything, they create a lot of, they put a lot of time and effort into November 11th, into Remembrance Day, and talking about the veterans. And I remember being at a doctor's appointment this November 11th, and I'm looking around and saying, nobody's wearing a poppy here. Is this the real world? Is this the acceptance that maybe that we should have for each other? And there was not immigrants, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying everybody. Not everybody was accepting what the country believes in. If you really want to get into this country and feel, I was mesmerized by Ratna this morning, of her passion for this country and her love for this country. And you think that lady didn't put effort into becoming a Canadian citizen? Oh my God, it was a romantic love affair for her to be a Canadian citizen in this country. It blew my mind when I heard her speak. So that's just some of the things about acceptance that I think about. Almost done. So let's get back to jobs and to kind of get some tangibles about, a little bit more about while we're here. I just want to recap a little bit before I show a last video. We talked about being unreasonable, getting out of your comfort zone, and really being unreasonable, going for jobs that you shouldn't be going for, being in situations that you shouldn't be in, saying things that maybe you're not expected to say a little bit. It's such a sandbox, so I suggest that we play in it. Time was always an asset for me. I didn't care. Like I said, you wanted me there at 5 a.m. reporting, I'd be there at 4. It was an asset. I found that everybody else around me had something to do. Fridays and Saturdays working overnights while you're in college is a big sacrifice for somebody in college, because you want to party, you want to go out, you want to hang out with your friends. I didn't care. I wanted that success more than I wanted sleep. Passion, to be passionate about what you're looking for. And of course, there's tangible and clinical kind of attributes that you have to get to, that you have to learn to get those things. But the passion really just gives you that karma, gives you that innate kind of drive. Authentic acceptance, just the acceptance of the people around you and of the people that say no to you. And that's hard to do. Like, are you kidding me? Be accepting of the people that look down at you when you go for a job, accepting of the people that tell you that you're overqualified, that you should go here, that I'm sorry, but your accent is a little too thick. That's where acceptance starts, because acceptance has to be a little bit somewhat unconditional, doesn't it? Unconditional. So I know it's a discussion point, but let's discuss it. The last thing then, you really are creating possibilities for yourself when you go down these routes, and you will be more of a memorable person with the people around you, and that helps with the networking. I think if we all just realize that the person sitting next to us in a lot of these situations is just as scared as we are, and that's why if that kind of understanding happens, the confidence kind of comes through. Once you go through all this, and I know what you're going to say, well, I went through all that and came back next year and they still said no. And that fear, that motivation, it turned into disappointment, and the disappointment turned into fear, and I just stopped doing it. It just didn't, there was no motivation, there was no passion left. At some point, the tank's got to be empty. Let me tell you something about fear. How do we turn fear into hope? I'll read you something. Again, it's not my words, it's from a book called Where Hope Takes Root by the Aga Khan. It's a quick little ditty, and then I got the last video, and I'm done. There is the human impulse, it seems, fed by fear to define identity in negative terms. We often determine who we are by determining who we are against. That's how wars happen, I guess. This fragmenting impulse not only separates